Y'all remember this past summer, Joe Biden went over to Saudi Arabia and he fist bumped with the crown prince and everything. And the main topic was increasing oil production. Many of you may remember this, right? Well, there's been a turn of events, and the Biden administration is fuming mad. The Saudi Arabia OPEC oil producers are cutting oil production, not increasing it like the US wanted. And they are siding with the Russians. Oh, America, America. Maybe you didn't do a good enough job telling them about your high Q, because they are aiding Russia, y'all, and giving the finger to the US. The breach in US Saudi relations widened Thursday as the White House accused the kingdom of helping Russia fund its war in Ukraine by pushing up oil revenues. Last week, the OPEC group of oil producers, including Saudi Arabia and Russia, decided to cut oil output by 2 million barrels per day, leading to anger in Washington, with members of Congress calling it to retaliate. They want retaliation on Saudi Arabia for cutting oil production when America wanted them to increase it. Mm-mm-mm. America look like you have very few friends out here. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby, in a sharp worded statement, accused the Saudi Arabia strong arming other oil producing countries to agree to cut major oil production. Oh man. Mm, 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 mm. The Saudi Foreign Ministry can try to spin or deflect, but the facts are simple, Kirby said, adding that the kingdom knows the decision will increase Russian revenue and blunt the effortness of sanctions against Russia. So they're actually helping the Russians in crushing these sanctions, because if Russia can make money and keep a steady stream of money coming in, the sanctions are not going to mean a thing. They don't all look. Russia's revenues have been going up, not down, since the sanctions have been on them. And they keep telling you, "Oh, just wait. It's gonna hit them down the line." Well, what Saudi Arabia is doing by helping increasing Russian revenue, those sanctions are really truly nothing. They're nothing. That's why the US is fuming mad. They are fuming mad, y'all. Mm, mm, mm. So he said the administration had urged Saudi Arabia to delay the decision, arguing there was no market basis to cut production targets. Other OPEC nations communicated to us privately that they also disagreed with Saudi's decision but felt coerced to support Saudi's direction, Kirby said. I don't believe those people are telling you the truth. Mm-mm. Kirby's remarks followed a statement Wednesday night from Saudi Arabia's foreign ministry rejecting claims that the oil cut was politically motivated against the United States or that the Saudis are taking sides with Russia, but actually they are. Those two are in bed with each other, and they have been for quite some time. So, they're trying to make it seem like they're neutral. The Saudis said the oil decision was made unanimously by OPEC members based purely on economic concerns. A dramatic cut to the amount of oil on the market that could drive up fuel prices in a rocky year at the pump. Okay, so President Joe Biden told CNN Tuesday there would be consequences for Saudi Arabia, but declined to elaborate on what action he's considering. So, the US, you don't do it our way, we're going to do something to you because you didn't follow our direction. You didn't do what we say. All right. This move is clearly going to severely strain an already bad relationship between the US and Saudi Arabia and spark a pretty significant backlash across both sides of the aisle in Washington, D.C., said Jason Bordoff, director of Columbia University's Center on Global Energy Policy. Yeah, well, the relationship between Saudi Arabia and the US have been strained for probably a little more than a decade. It wasn't just the sheer size of the cut in oil production by OPEC. It was also the timing, coming less than 3 months after Biden visited Saudi Arabia to lobby against such a reduction, and just ahead of the US midterm elections where prices at the gas pump could have an effect on the voters. Well, fuel prices are going to go up, y'all, because their holidays are coming up. So that's inevitable. So it feels punitive against the Biden administration, says John Packenkoff, an expert on Middle East security at the Atlantic Council and a former U.S. intelligence analyst on the region. I think it's hard to think it's otherwise because the Saudis aren't native about the U.S. political situation. It may not have been the core reason for doing it, but they absolutely were happy to do it. So this week, OPEC, which stands for Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, lowered its forecast for crude oil demand in the coming months because of the global inflation, soaring interest rates, and geopolitical tensions. U.S. officials were engaged in a full court press with their counterparts in the Gulf Coast region up to October 5th. So they've been talking off and on to these OPEC countries all the way up until October 5th. And at the end of the day, by the 13th, they're all cutting production. And this is absolutely what the US did not want. He said there was an understanding of what the US administration was pressuring members of the oil cartel to do. It's just that we will, so they said they're going to have to look at the US domestic policies, the Biden administration domestic political considerations was not there. So I don't know. It just seems like they don't have too many alternatives to turn to now that they are getting the shaft by Saudi Arabia. Wow. It was one thing to have America's partner, Saudi Arabia, lead the drive to cut production, pouring salt into the administration wound, was having Russia Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak, who is sanctioned by the US to sit at the table when the cuts were announced. Saudi Arabia and Russia co chair OPEC Plus. So I'm sure he had a big smile on his face sitting at that table. Mm-mm-mm. The US and many of its allies have been trying to slash Russia's oil and gas exports, which help prop up the country's economy. Oil production cuts will drive up the price per barrel and funnel more revenue to the Kremlin coffers to help pay for the war in Ukraine. So Saudi Arabia is helping Russia economically, and they're also helping them with the war. Mm, mm, mm. See, that's why the US is talking about retaliating on Saudi Arabia. But how do you really retaliate on them? They're such a big oil giant. Saudi Arabia's decision to band together with Russia in production cuts is seen as undermining the US efforts to curb Russia's oil earnings. Many in DC view the Saudis now as aligning themselves with Russia at a time when Russian troops are killing Ukrainians and reducing Russia energy exports, are plunging much of the world into an energy crisis. Democrats in Congress are calling for Biden to take tough measures against Saudi Arabia. That includes legislation introduced by California Ro Khanna of California and Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut to stop selling arms to the kingdom. And Senate Foreign Relations Committee Chair said the U.S. should freeze all aspects of our cooperation with Saudi Arabia. I'm laughing because you know what, y'all? Years ago, people, other countries were afraid of the U.S. And this is also a sign that they're not scared of the US. They're not scared. Mm-mm. And they're showing it. Not only Saudi Arabia, but all of these OPEC countries are showing the US they are not afraid of the US at all. Can't fight all of them, US. You can't fight them all. So, all right, so let me just go down to the next part. But the Atlantic Council says freezing weapon sales to Saudi Arabia may not be the wisest move. It could allow China to fill that void. He said instead the US need to be smarter about how it approaches the Saudis. Okay, so they said it all goes back to the crown prince. So the OPEC plus decision winds back to the kingdom's powerful de facto leader, the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. I don't think we fully accepted the notion that he is a different leader than we've ever dealt with. And so we're going to have a different relationship, he said. Mm-mm-mm. The Crown Prince and the US will have to decide if it wants to spend time and energy rebuilding its strategic relationship with the kingdom or become more transactional. So, what they're saying is they're going to have to decide or figure out how to approach this crown prince because he is not like the predecessors they had to deal with. And he really isn't. When you look at him, he's a much younger man than some of the other crown princes that they had to deal with. He's younger. Maybe we don't sell more advanced aircraft, he said. Maybe we remove some Patriot batteries, and we look to recognize your security. We're not trying to diminish it. So he's trying to say, don't diminish the relationship with them. America really can't afford to. America can't afford to diminish anything with them because, see, this is what happens when you try to be a bully, and then at the same time, you're at the mercy of a lot of these countries. You're at the mercy of Saudi Arabia over the oil. You're at the mercy of China because you gave them all of your manufacturing work. So, how much can you really screw these people over now? America is really between a rock and a hard place. And you wanted something out of these folks, and they are refusing to give it to you. They're not going to increase oil production, which means oil prices are going to go up. And it means you're going to start seeing these high gas prices again here in America. Mm-mm-mm. Y'all tell me what you think. Boy, America, America, what a mess you got yourself in. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.